Boss battles. A key staple in any video game, serving as a test of the player's skill at the game at various points. Some are fun, some are challenging, and some are just downright insanely satisfying. However, we also have those boss battles. The boss battles that are just a gigantic no. Before you all yell at me for remaking a list that isn't even that old and still holds up pretty well, at least by my standards, let me explain. I have played a ton of new games since the old list, and that naturally means I run into quite a few new boss battles. While some were downright amazing, I did run into a few that managed to stand out for less than stellar reasons. Some were aggravatingly difficult compared to what came before them, some were just downright unfair as they employed cheap tactics and unavoidable attacks, and some were just borderline anticlimactic because the fight is either too easy or because of the already mentioned reasons, meaning that you're going to be pulling your hair out and taking a hammer to the game disc rather than soaking up the atmosphere of the battle. Which is something the Halo development team knows all too well. I'm going to need a gallon of Diet Coke to watch the sour taste of the finale of Halo 5 Guardians out of my mouth. Anyways, for those of you that have seen my other lists, or any other countdown out there, you already clearly know the rules of the video at this point. However, I'll be throwing in a new rule. Due to this list being a remake of the last one, this list will contain no entries that appeared on the previous list, nor will I be including enemies from games that appeared on the previous list. So, no entries for Sonic Generations, Star Fox 64, Skyward Sword, Final Fantasy 13, etc. So, now then, sit back, relax, and let the games begin. One main problem I have with Dead Island, and most other zombie games that do this, is the inclusion of human enemies. I want to cave in a zombie's skull with an electrified sledgehammer, not slow down, grab a gun, and pick off gunmen from a long range. If I wanted to shoot idiots in the face, I'd play Counter-Strike or something. So, naturally, the final boss of Dead Island is possibly one of the most anticlimactic final battles I've ever faced. Okay, I will admit that they at least tried with the infected Ryder White battle, in that he's at least some kind of super zombie, but that's probably the only positive. Ryder's AI is basically the same as a regular infected enemy, but with the health of a ram, the knockback of a thug, and the damage of a butcher. So basically, it's a mishmash of various aspects of enemies, and due to this, the boss is simply just a tougher and harder hitting version of a regular infected. Which would be fine if this fight happened earlier on, but this is the final boss fight. I was honestly expecting a bit more than this. The design is also pretty disappointing. From the cutscene before it, where Ryder is muted after injecting himself with a supposed zombie cure, I honestly expected him to look a bit more intimidating and look like something like a boss from Resident Evil. Like that guy with a fucking huge eyeball on his shoulder. But what do we get? A slightly more buff version of Ryder White. That's it? Are you freaking kidding me, Deep Silver? You mean to tell me that's the best design you could come up with? Did you run out of time in making this fight? Maybe that's the case. Between the basic AI, the design, and the pathetic difficulty, the whole fight just feels like it was rushed. In fact, the various other enemies that can spawn when fighting Ryder are more of a threat than he is. To make matters worse, there's also a crap ton of health items, ammo, and explosives dotted around the arena. The health items and ammo pickups aren't too bad, but the explosives are another story. Explosives in Dead Island deal a crap ton of damage, and given how Ryder loves to dash towards you in straight lines, lobbing a few grenades and molotovs at him while he charges at you is all it takes to finish him off. You'd think they would have patched this huge oversight, but no. You know, it's almost laughable how many easy kills that you can get in this fight. It's almost as if they didn't care or something. To say Deus Ex Human Revolution has terribly designed boss fights is like saying Right to Hell Retribution is not a good game. Oh sweet Jesus, are these boss fights terrible. Each one has way too much health, employs cheap abilities to make stealth useless, and requires some really unorthodox tactics to beat. But the worst of the bunch by a long shot is boss number 3, Jaron Namir. For a start, you have to fight him in a maze. If Kid Icarus Uprising has taught us anything, is that if your game isn't Barman, don't set any boss fights inside a maze. This means that when Namir rushes you, you'll be too busy focusing on backpedaling and shooting him than checking the layout of the maze walls behind you, meaning that what will most likely happen is that you'll be frantically running away only to get stuck in a corner and be killed by Namir's insanely powerful attacks. What also makes this fight even worse is that Namir has the ability to actually climb over the walls of the maze while you can't. Factor in his incredible speed and you see the main glaring problem. it's practically impossible to see what direction he's going to attack from, and God help you if he decides to attack you from behind. To make matters worse, Namir also has grenades in addition to his melee attacks. He will cycle between different types of grenades, but mainly uses gas and EMP grenades. If you don't have the right augmentations, the gas grenades will effectively bar you from entering a certain section of the maze, and the EMP grenades scramble your head at display, making it impossible to see anything. But the absolute worst part of this fight is that Jaren Namir just won't die. I generally think that a high health, high damage boss is a bad idea unless there's some kind of trick you can use to take them down quickly, like what Borderlands did, or unless there's some kind of post-game super boss. Like Sephiroth from Kingdom Hearts 2. I like that fight, it was cool. Nimir on the other hand has no easy trick to beating him. He'll shrug off pretty much any kind of bullet damage like it's nothing. Granted, sniper rifle and heavy rifle rounds, revolver bullets and shotgun shells do deal a decent amount of damage, but you'll need about 1 million of each type of bullet to kill him. He'll immediately counter your instant kill takedowns and melee attacks, and his speed makes the plasma rifle and explosive weapons practically useless. I think that's everything. No, wait, I forgot the one thing that cements this fight a place on the list. There is a glitch that lets you one-shot Namir. How do you do this? Normally, you can't use an instant kill takedown on Namir, but if you perform one just after he vaults the wall of the maze, it will work and you'll kill him in one hit. This wouldn't be a problem on its own, but due to the difficulty and terrible design of the rest of the fight, this is the only way I was able to beat him. Before you yell at me for having no skill at games and to get good, I'll leave you with the knowledge that nearly every single walkthrough of the original edition of the game lists this glitch as the most reliable way to take him out, and only resort to fighting him directly if you're playing the Director's Cut edition where the glitch was patched. This boss fight has honestly no real reason to exist. Did we really need to trudge through one of the most awfully designed boss fights to ever exist tacked on to the end of one of the best games on the PlayStation 3? The fact that this fight comes right the fuck out of nowhere doesn't help. Out of all the villains in Uncharted 1, Navarro is the one that gets the least amount of screen time in development. Eddie Raja and Gabriel Ronan have at least some connection to Nate and Sully, but Navarro is just Ronan's heavy hitter and his second in command, whose only characterization is, I'm a mercenary with a foreign accent, therefore I am evil. So you don't exactly feel any kind of emotional connection to the fight, and instead of the whole climactic feeling you should get in this kind of situation, you instead get this rushed fight that doesn't feel as satisfying as it should be. In fact, Navarro actually shoots what could possibly be a much more deserving candidate for this fight in the face right before this battle even starts. As for the fight itself, oh god, why? One of the few problems with the first Uncharted game is that during combat, various enemies will carry insanely powerful weapons that could potentially kill you in one shot if you're not careful. The worst of these kinds of weapons is the combat shotgun. This thing has an insane rate of fire and damage so high that while it's not an instant kill, it reduces to such a low amount of health that it might as well be. And Naughty Dog, being the brilliant geniuses that they are, gave Navarro one of these, which he can fire and reload at such an insane speed that makes it clear he's some kind of superhuman. And he's also flanked by a bunch of goons with assault rifles which I swear have bottomless magazines, as I've hardly ever seen them reloading. And this makes the fight even harder and more annoying. Not only do you have to deal with Navarro and his superhuman reloading speed, you also have to deal with the constant stream of gunfire from his faithless mooks, naturally making this pathetic excuse for a final boss fight a situation where it is borderline impossible to prioritize your targets. Try to go for the goons and you either get blasted in the face with a shotgun round or get pinned behind a crate only to have it destroyed when Navarro fires up another volley. Meaning that you either get turned into Swiss cheese by the onslaught of bullets or find yourself frantically running to another crate to hide behind, only to have it obliterated after a few seconds, causing the cycle to repeat. However, should you try to go for Navarro, you'll either get blasted by a shotgun yet again, or be reduced to a twitching mass of strawberry-coloured paste thanks to the endless onslaught of bullets from his goons. And how does Navarro die after all is said and done? Does Nate make a cheesy action movie one-liner before blasting him in the face? Nope. Navarro's leg gets snapped on a cable connected to the El Dorado sarcophagus, causing him to be pulled to the bottom of the sea. Kinda disappointing if you ask me. At least the battle with Zlarovich in the sequel isn't all that bad. Remember Dead Space? That awesome Subaru horror franchise with what is possibly the most polarizing third installment in gaming history? I seriously don't think I have the credibility and sizable fanbase to talk about Dead Space 3 just yet. So I'll do the next best thing and rip apart some of Dead Space's worst boss battles. If you ask me, survival horror is one of the hardest genres to create boss battles for, because the general idea of these games is to not go in all guns blazing, instead forcing you to either run away from most, if not all enemies you come across, or carefully manage whatever limited resources you have in order to take down whatever monster you come across. Dead Space does actually manage to get this idea right in the form of the Hunter, Regenerator, whatever, but the game also manages to fuck up the general idea of a survival horror boss fight in the form of the Hive Mind. This weird lump of flesh looks like the love child of Legion from Castlevania and the Starlight Pit from Star Wars, and it's apparently the thing serving as the controller of the entire necromorph population on the Ishimura and the planet below, and it goes down faster than a slasher caught in the Ripper's spinning saw blade. This fight is possibly one of the most pathetic things I've ever had the displeasure of facing in a video game. The Hive Mind's weak spots are painfully obvious, even more so than your average Mario boss, and they can be easily severed with 3 or 4 shots from the Plasma Cutter, aka the first weapon you get in the game. That in itself wouldn't be too bad if not for the fact that you could easily shoot and destroy each of its weak points before the Hive Mind is capable of launching its first attack. Turning the showdown against the Hive Mind into a bullet sponge boss fight isn't really that much of a threat. Should the Hive Mind actually manage to pull off an attack, you'll find yourself facing down Elite Vagina performing a stupidly telegraphed attack with a pathetically long wind-up time. As you'd expect, these attacks are ridiculously easy to dodge, and due to the incredibly long time between its attacks, whatever damage you take from said attacks can be easily healed with a health kit, which forces you to physically open a menu and manually use the healing item instead of pressing a button to insta-heal. Mind you, this is damage you can probably only suffer if you actually stand still and tank it like a boss. I personally don't know why you would do that. Maybe you're a sadomasochist or something. But the one thing that cements the Hive Mind's place on this list is that it serves as the final boss of one of the most critically praised survival horror games of the last generation. You get into this fight expecting a huge dramatic showdown with whatever monstrosity the game wants to throw at you, and what you get is something that is less of a final battle and more of a glorified shooting gallery. And Dead Space already had one of those, which was a pretty fun minigame. I'm starting to notice a trend of wasted potential with the battles on this list. Battles that should be incredibly climactic and entertaining just falling flat on their faces by either being too easy or being annoyingly frustrating due to bad design. But it is possible to actually go too far in the other direction, and you end up with a battle that ends up being frustrating because of its well-designed nature. And this is where Minion comes in. If you've ever played a Twisted Metal game before, you'll probably have experience with the difficulty of the boss fights. I mean, Darktooth and Twisted Metal 2 was friggin' brutal. But what made the majority of these boss fights enjoyable, I say most because Iron Maiden from the reboot was a fairly close honorable mention for this list, what makes these fights enjoyable for the most part is that the arenas were large enough to allow you to dodge their attacks, and if you screw up during these fights, it feels like your own fault. Minion, on the other hand, is fought in a stadium, and you're basically trapped in a cramped space with a tanker truck armed with enough firepower to kill you in a few seconds if you mess up. While we've had situations like this before, Minion's attacks basically amount to carpet bombing. This carpet bombing type of attack in cramped stadium leaves you with little place to hide from the ever-present onslaught, forcing you to spend most of the fight desperately backpedaling trying to chip away at Minion's infinite health bar. Or at least you would do if it were possible to actually damage Minion straight away. What you have to do is instead to attack the various shield cores on his body in order to destroy his force field. This wouldn't normally be a problem, but because of how small the targets are and how dangerous Minion's carpet bombing attacks are, this makes the shield plates pretty much impossible to destroy from long range, forcing you to get up close and personal with Minion, at which point you get shredded by the ridiculously overpowered flamethrower mounted to the top of the tanker. You'd think after all that you'd at least get the small mercy of tanker trucks having abysmal speed, right? Nope. Minion moves at an incredible speed for a vehicle of its size, with only vehicles with a 4 out of 5 speed stat being able to outrun it, aka vehicles like Mr. Grimm, Spectre, and Crazy 8. However, these vehicles can only last 10 seconds at most against Minion's rampage due to the really low armor stats that faster vehicles have. Mr. Grimm in particular only has a 1 out of 5 armor stat, meaning that trying to take him on using this bike makes the fight so much more aggravating as all of his attacks are pretty much one-hit kills due to your low health. Actually, scratch that, it doesn't matter who you play as, Minion's attacks are so damn powerful they can one-shot practically any character. Even the tough-as-nails semi-Darkseid and the practically invincible dump truck Manslaughter are no match for this thing. But wait, we're not done yet. Minion actually is a secret playable character, and it is so rewarding to control this ultimate destructive force that gave you so much trouble. So if you're a completionist, you need to unlock him if you want 100% completion. So how do you go about unlocking him? Beat the game with every single character, including the 4 secret characters Axel, Manslaughter, Yellow Jacket, and Warthog. Once you've done all that, you're still not completely done with the game, because you need to beat the game one last time with Minion. Meaning that if you want to get that 100% completion for Twisted Metal Black, you have to go through this frustrating and annoying boss battle a grand total of 15 times. In other words, way too many times. So, Lockdown. In Age of Extinction, he was an intimidating badass. In Rise of the Darkspark, not so much. Putting aside the fact that this game completely screwed up his character, I mean, in this game he's trying to bring back the Decepticons because they paid well, changing his motivations from whatever the hell he was trying to do in Age of Extinction to just trying to get money. As for the battle itself, it manages to end up being the one thing that a final boss should never be: boring. All Lockdown does during this fight is bounce around the room, taking random shots at you whenever he feels like it. To make matters worse, Lockdown is invincible for most of the fight, dropping his guard when he feels like it, as in, there is no pattern as to when he'll jump down from his perch and fight you one-on-one. And what happens when he finally joins the fight? He is still immune to gunfire, so the only way to damage him is with melee attacks. This wouldn't be a problem, except that it generally only takes about 4 to 5 melee attacks to kill anything. Meaning that the way you beat Lockdown is literally bitch slapping him in the face a few times until he's decided he has had enough and dies. Somehow. Naturally, this creates a final boss that is more anticlimactic than Didac from Halo 4, and has more wasted villain potential than Shockwave from Transformers 3. To make matters even worse, all of Lockdown's attacks in this fight are abilities he's never even possessed before. Where's the capture hook? Where's the grenades? Where's the huge physics-defying face gun? Instead, we get weird teleporting, the same guns wielded by regular mooks, and some kind of slowdown attack which is lifted straight from the multiplayer. While all of these attacks and powers can be explained from the lazy MacGuffin / Deus Ex Machina known as the Darkspark, but given how the abilities Lockdown uses in this fight are completely different from those given to Megatron for his fight, I'm guessing lazy writing and game design are to blame here. You know, if these pathetic abilities are the true extent of the Darkspark's power, I don't think the Autobots have all that much to worry about, to be honest. When it comes to Pokemon, there's generally that one gym leader that everyone seems to forget or either completely despises. I already talked about the gym leader that frustrated me to no end the last time I made a video like this, so this time I'll tell you about the boss that I found to be almost completely forgetful: Olympia. One thing that X and Y fell short on was the gym leaders, is that they're generally forgettable character-wise, have literally no interaction with the player outside from battling you, and have really small teams that are really easy to beat, possibly due to the fact that the EXP share was incredibly overpowered, to the point of you being able to sweep through pretty much anything in your path. Granted, the only gym leader to give me any trouble was Grant, and that was because I couldn't find a decent fighting type to take down his Aurorus. Stupid refrigerate ability. Olympia, on the other hand, is a special case. I replayed Pokemon X before making this list, and I honestly forgot that Olympia even existed, something that has never happened to me before in a Pokemon game, and certainly not to a gym leader. And from a gameplay standpoint, that's not a good thing. She has no presence in the game at all outside of a gym battle. In fact, the only reason you'll even know that this town has a gym leader to fight is if you check your trainer card earlier in the game. When you actually fight her, you'll notice that her team is rather unimpressive. Like the other gym leaders, Olympia's team is insultingly small, more so in her case that she is the 7th leader you face. While she does come packing a tanky Siglif and Slowking, both of these Pokemon share a crippling weakness to electricity and are set at level 44 and level 45 respectively, and due to the previously mentioned OP EXP share, your team will most likely be at least 5 levels higher than these two. The worst thing about this is that all 3 starter Pokemon can learn moves that are super effective against these incredibly tanky Pokemon. After those 2 Pokemon go down, Olympia will send out her ace, a level 48 Meowstic. The problem with this is naturally by this point you've seen and taken down a bunch of these, either in the wild or being owned by standard trainers. To make matters worse, your rival has one of these and will challenge you just before you enter the gym. It's not like there isn't a shortage of decent Psychic-type Pokemon you could have given her. Heck, there are other Psychic types introduced in Gen 6, so why choose Meowstic of all Pokemon? It just doesn't make sense. Here's hoping her team has improved in Pokemon Z, if that ever comes out.